People don't always run because they've stopped caring. Sometimes they run because they care so much, they're terrified to lose you. That's the part most folks never tell you, that the one pulling away might not be done with you. They might be drowning in feelings they don't know how to carry. My friends, we often think when someone creates distance, it means we're not enough. We go into panic mode, we chase, we explain, we try harder. But what if I told you, their pulling away might not be rejection at all? It might be their defense against the very fear of losing you. Before we dive deep into this, do me one quick favor. If you've ever been confused by someone's emotional withdrawal, if you've ever asked yourself, why are they acting cold right after we got close? Hit that like button right now and subscribe to Powerful Stoic Habits, because this video right here might just change the way you see everything. Now imagine this. You're holding a candle in a dark room. It's quiet, still, but the flame is strong. You move your hand a little closer, and suddenly the heat hits your skin. Not enough to burn, but enough to remind you, this fire is real. Some people aren't afraid of the dark. They're afraid of the light, because once the light's on, the truth is exposed. Vulnerability shows up, and they don't know what to do with it. So what do? They flinch, they retreat. Not because they hate the flame, but because they finally felt it. Folks, let's stop pretending that emotional distance always means disinterest. Sometimes the closer you get to someone's heart, the more they panic, the more they realize what's at stake, and that fear of getting hurt again. That fear of being abandoned, of being truly seen and then left. It kicks in hard. And in their panic, they push you away. Not because you're doing something wrong, but because their heart doesn't know how to feel safe with something so real. But here's the lie we've been sold, that when they pull away, we need to pull harder, that we need to fix it, that love means convincing them to stay. That presence must always be proven. But that's not strength. That's insecurity wearing a suit. Real strength isn't about chasing someone who's afraid. It's about standing still and showing them there's nothing to fear. It's about becoming the calm in their storm, not another wave crashing against their panic. Marcus Aurelius said, "The nearer a man comes to a calm mind, the closer he is to strength." That's your compass. When they're in emotional chaos, you don't match their energy. You don't fold. You breathe. You observe. You stand tall in who you are, and you let your presence speak louder than desperation ever could. That's what this video is about. Understanding why they push you away right when they start to feel something real. And how a man who stays centered, who stays stoic, who doesn't flinch when the closeness turns into fear, that's the man they'll remember. That's the man they'll come back to, not because he chased them, but because he didn't betray himself trying to hold them. So if you're ready to stop reacting out of fear, if you're ready to understand the real reason they pulled away, and if you're ready to become the kind of man who leads with calm, not control, then stay with me. This message is going to hit deep, and when it does, I want you to drop this in the comments. I anchor emotions. I don't chase them. Let's break the lies. Let's build the calm. Let's begin. Number 1. The closer you get, the harder they push. The moment we fear losing what we love, we begin to destroy it just to feel in control again. That's the irony of human connection. The more we crave closeness, the more terrified we become of what that closeness might cost us. And that fear, it shows up in silence, in distance, in cold replies. You think things are finally falling into place, Conversations are flowing, eye contact lingers longer, vulnerability starts to crack through the surface, and then suddenly it's like they're gone. Not physically maybe, but emotionally. Detached. You feel it in your gut before your mind can explain it. And it hurts. You start wondering, did I do something wrong? Did I say too much? Was I too available? But my friend, what if I told you the reason they pulled away wasn't because they stopped feeling something, but because they started to? And that feeling scared the hell out of them. Imagine a bird that's been in a cage its whole life. You open the door one day, let it fly free, but as soon as it flaps its wings and tastes that freedom, something strange happens. It doesn't fly far. It circles back, perches near the edge, unsure, because freedom sounds beautiful, until you realize it also comes with risk, with exposure, with no walls to hide behind when storms hit. That's how vulnerability feels to someone who's been hurt, to someone who's cared deeply before and watched that care get shattered. When they start feeling safe with you, when you get too close, it doesn't always inspire comfort. Sometimes it triggers panic. They don't want to lose you. That's not why they're backing off. They're trying to avoid the pain of losing you before you even leave. So they push. They act like they don't care. They test your silence with their own. And it's not because their feelings are gone. It's because those feelings are suddenly too real. And they don't know if they can handle that reality. You might be thinking, but if they cared, why wouldn't they just say it? Why wouldn't they lean in instead of pulling back? That's the trap, brother. You're thinking from your logic, not their trauma. You're measuring connection by consistency, by open communication, by warmth. But for someone whose emotional blueprint includes abandonment, betrayal, or sudden loss, love doesn't always feel safe. Sometimes it feels like a ticking time bomb. And the closer you get to their heart, the louder that ticking gets. Here's what society never teaches us. People don't always react to love with openness. Sometimes they react with fear, and fear makes people do the opposite of what they truly want. It makes them run from the very person they want to be held by. It makes them go silent when they actually want to be reassured. It makes them say, I need space, when all they really want is to know you'll still be there after the dust settles. But here's where most men collapse. They take the pullback personally. They try to fix it. They chase. They explain themselves into exhaustion. And with every text, every call, every desperate "what's wrong?", they unintentionally confirm the very fear the other person was trying to escape. That closeness always comes with pressure. That opening up means being suffocated. And just like that, the flame they were trying to protect, it goes out. So what's the Stoic path? What does a man of emotional strength do when they start to pull away? He doesn't panic. He doesn't beg. He doesn't explain himself to death. He breathes. He observes. He steps back, not to punish, but to protect his peace. He understands that someone else's emotional reaction is not his job to fix, that their distance isn't a personal attack. It's a sign of inner conflict. And rather than throwing fuel on their emotional fire, he becomes the stillness that allows the smoke to clear. Seneca once said, "A gem cannot be polished without friction, nor a man perfected without trials." And make no mistake, this is a trial, a test, not of how much you care, but of how well you can hold your ground when emotions get complicated. This is not about proving your love. It's about proving your strength to yourself. Can you remain whole even as someone you care about creates space? Can you stay calm even when everything in you wants to chase clarity? Because that's what makes you unforgettable. That's what builds trust. Not your ability to say the perfect thing, but your ability to remain centered when things become unclear. Let me ask you this. Are you the kind of man who folds under emotional pressure? Or are you the kind of man who stays rooted, who understands that love is never proven through panic, that respect is never earned through chasing? When they pull back, don't collapse. Don't take it as rejection. Take it as resistance. And your response, that's what defines the next chapter. Will you spiral into overthinking, or will you stand tall in your truth, knowing that if this bond is real, it doesn't need to be forced? This is your reminder. Just because someone pulls away doesn't mean you've lost them. Sometimes it means they're battling something inside that they haven't even shared with themselves yet. And your greatest gift in that moment isn't reassurance, it's presence, calm, consistency, not overreaction. So if this message hits home, if you've ever been in that moment where connection got too close and suddenly they turned cold, write this in the comments right now. I hold steady when they push. Let the world know you don't fold. Show them, show yourself, show her. Because the storm might be loud, but your stillness, that's what they'll feel long after the noise fades. And stay with me, because next, we're going to expose the truth behind emotional resistance. Why what feels like rejection is often just a scared heart trying to protect itself. And how you, my friend, respond like a mountain, not a wave. Number 2, it's not rejection, it's resistance. Not everything that pulls away is trying to leave. Sometimes it's just trying to protect what it's scared to lose. That's the misunderstanding that wrecks most connections. The moment someone starts acting different, colder, slower, distant, we assume it's about us. We start rewinding every interaction, analyzing every message, dissecting every silence like it's a threat. But what if that distance isn't about disinterest? What if it's not rejection at all, but resistance, a shield, not a sword, a defense, not a goodbye? You've got to understand something, my friend. Emotional resistance is a survival mechanism. It's what people use when vulnerability becomes too real. When someone's heart starts feeling things they can't quite explain, things they've been hurt by before, their first instinct isn't always to lean in. It's to brace, to back up, to test the space. Not because they want out, but because they're terrified of being all in. Picture a boxer stepping into the ring. Even if it's just a friendly spar, they keep their guard up. Not because they hate the opponent, but because the last time they dropped their hands, they got hit hard. That's what emotional closeness feels like to someone who's still healing. They want to trust. They want to feel safe. But the fear says, don't forget what happened last time. So now you're facing their resistance. They're quieter. They're less responsive. The warmth that once wrapped around you feels like it's fading. And the lie creeps in. The one that says, they don't care anymore. But here's the truth you've got to hold on to. They might be pulling away because they care so deeply it's triggering panic. Their silence might be them screaming internally, don't hurt me like they did. And that's where you get tested, because if you start chasing that resistance, if you try to force connection in the middle of their fear, you become the very pressure they were trying to escape. You feed the story their mind is telling them, that love always suffocates, that opening up always invites pain. That's why most people end up pushing even harder. Not because you're wrong, but because you confirmed the fear that closeness means losing control. Now pause for a second and think. How many times have you mistaken fear for disinterest? How many times have you taken their withdrawal as a sign to push more, to explain, to chase validation? And where did that get you? Did they come closer, or did they pull further away? Let's break the lie right here. You are not meant to fix their fear. You are not their therapist. You are not their emotional firefighter. You're a man on his path, a man of presence, not panic. And your strength isn't proven by how fast you run toward their resistance. It's shown in how steady you remain when they back away. Stoicism teaches us that you do not control what others feel, but you do control how you respond. Epictetus said, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." And that's exactly what happens when someone resists connection. We imagine it's personal. We suffer through assumptions. We abandon our own peace to fix a narrative that was never ours to carry. So what's the move here? You don't mirror their confusion. You don't punish their distance with your own silence. You don't swing from warm to cold just to match energy. You stay rooted, grounded, solid. You don't close off your heart, but you protect your peace. You don't chase, but you don't disappear either. You simply refuse to hand your worth over to someone else's emotional weather. Think about a lighthouse in a storm. It doesn't scream. It doesn't run down to the shore. It doesn't panic when the waves crash. It just stands, glowing, unmoved. That's who you become in moments like this. The person they can trust. Not because you say the right words, but because you didn't collapse when they needed space. It's not easy, I know. Every part of you wants clarity, wants assurance, wants things to feel like they did yesterday. But here's the truth. They're in a battle with their own emotions right now. Your job isn't to fight their war for them. It's to stay peaceful in yours. Because when their fear settles, they'll remember who didn't flinch, who didn't judge, who didn't try to own their healing process, but honored it from a place of quiet strength. So the next time they grow distant, don't assume it means you've been rejected. Take a breath and ask yourself, is this about me? Or is this about something they haven't even learned to face yet? Most of the time, the answer will shock you. And if you can hold that awareness, if you can resist the urge to over-explain, to prove yourself, to decode their silence like it's a secret message, you'll begin to feel something powerful, self-respect, emotional sovereignty, peace that isn't based on someone else's behavior. Write this in the comments if you're ready to lead with that kind of energy. I respond with strength, not fear. Let it be your mantra. Let it echo through every uncertain moment. Show yourself. Show the world around you. Because the man who doesn't confuse resistance for rejection, the man who stays calm when others pull back, the man who holds space without abandoning himself, that man doesn't chase love. He attracts it. And in the next section, we'll go even deeper into what it actually looks like to hold your frame when the emotions get heavy. You don't want to miss it. Stay with me. Number 3, you're not meant to fix it. You're meant to hold frame. Don't set yourself on fire to keep someone else warm. This one hits different when the person pulling away is the same person you were trying to build something real with. Let's be honest, folks. This is where most good men break. They feel the shift, the silence, the slow fade, and something inside of them screams, "Fix it, now." They start searching for the right words to say, the perfect message to send. They think if they can just explain their heart clearly enough, maybe, just maybe, they'll bring the closeness back. But what if I told you that trying to fix it is exactly what makes it worse? The truth is, you are not meant to solve their fear. You are not here to convince them that love is safe, because love isn't something you argue into existence. And trust is not built through pressure. It's built through presence. through patience, through posture. Imagine a man trying to help a butterfly escape its cocoon. He sees it struggling, wings shaking. So he takes a knife and gently cuts the cocoon open, thinking he's helping. But what he doesn't realize is that the struggle was necessary. The pushing, the resistance, the pain, it's what strengthens the butterfly's wings so it can fly. And without it, the wings stay weak. It never learns to soar. That's what happens when you try to fix someone else's emotional resistance. You rob them of their growth. You turn their fear into your project. You carry their emotions like it's your burden to solve. And slowly, you forget your role. You stop being the man grounded in his mission, and you become the man performing emotional CPR on someone who's not even asking for it. Let me be real with you. When they pull away, when they go quiet, when they resist the connection, you're going to feel the urge to lean in, to prove you're safe, to reassure them you're not like the rest. And that intention might come from love, but the execution, it reeks of fear. And fear, my friend, is not masculine. Fear doesn't build attraction. Fear doesn't build trust. It builds pressure. And pressure makes people run. Now, I'm not telling you to become a cold, emotionless statue. I'm telling you to become anchored. There's a difference. One is numb, the other is present. One disconnects, the other holds frame. And frame isn't about pretending you don't care. It's about caring without crumbling. It's about showing up without overreaching. It's about giving space without disappearing. Marcus Aurelius said, if someone does wrong, it is their problem. How you respond is yours. Apply that here, their emotional chaos, not yours to carry, their past wounds, not yours to heal, their fear of closeness, not yours to chase down and cure. Your job is to stay aligned with who you are, regardless of who's pulling away. Because when you try to fix it, you send a silent message. My peace depends on your closeness. My worth depends on your warmth. And that message, it doesn't make them feel safe. It makes them feel smothered. No one feels drawn to a man who needs emotional certainty just to feel secure in himself. Let's flip the script. What if, instead of texting back to back, instead of long explanations, instead of trying to make them talk about what they don't even understand yet, what if you just stayed grounded? You got back to your workout. You dove into your projects. You showed up for your routine like nothing shifted, not out of denial, not out of spite, but out of respect for yourself and for their space. That's what holding frame looks like. It's not loud, it's not forceful, it's not dramatic, it's steady, it's composed, it's unapologetically present. And that kind of energy, that's what makes someone feel safe to come back. Not because you chased them, but because your energy said, you're welcome here, but I won't break myself trying to keep you. Let me give it to you straight. You can't lead in love if you collapse every time emotions shift. You can't protect a connection if you're too busy trying to fix one. Your job isn't to regulate their nervous system, it's to master your own. And when you do, you become rare. Because most men fold, most men chase, most men try to talk their way into intimacy, but not you. So the next time they pull away, ask yourself, am I reacting from fear or am I responding from center? Because how you answer that question is the difference between repeating the same painful cycle and finally rising above it. Drop this in the comments if you're claiming that strength today. I hold frame. I don't fix fear. Say it. Show it. Let it become your standard. Because the man who holds frame, he's not forgotten, he's not ignored, he's respected, even in silence. And in the next part of this journey, we're going even deeper into how their distance isn't a statement, it's a question, and how your answer, without saying a word, defines the kind of man you really are. Stay with me. Number 4. Their distance is a question, not a statement. When someone pulls away, they're not always leaving you. They might just be asking, "Can I trust you to stay steady when I can't?" Here's where most men misunderstand the moment. They take emotional distance as a final verdict, like it's already over. They see the unread messages, the change in energy, the cold responses, and their brain immediately jumps to the worst-case scenario. They've lost interest. They don't want me anymore. I messed it up. But that's not always the truth, my friend. Sometimes the distance isn't a goodbye. Sometimes it's a test. And no, not a game, not manipulation, not some childish tactic. I'm talking about a subconscious test, a reflex born out of fear, past wounds, survival mode. When they create space, when they withdraw after things start getting emotionally real, it's not always about you. It's about them, their story, their scars, their inner conflict about what it means to truly open up to someone who matters. They're not asking with words, they're asking with silence, with distance, with hesitation. And the question behind all of that is simple but deep. Can you handle this without falling apart? Can you stay grounded even when they're not leaning in? Can you hold your emotional posture when they're spiraling through theirs? Imagine someone walking across a rope bridge. Every step forward makes it sway. Now imagine they pause in the middle, not because they want to go back, but because they're scared to keep moving forward. They look back at you standing steady on the other side. What do? Do you run onto the bridge, adding more weight, shaking the foundation? Or do you stay still, calm, grounded, letting them know that you're not going anywhere, but that you're not going to destabilize the connection either? That's what emotional distance often is. It's a moment of internal panic masked as detachment. And the man who understands that, he becomes rare, because while others chase the silence, try to talk their way through the confusion or collapse into anxiety, he observes. He holds frame. He recognizes that this isn't the moment to prove himself. It's the moment to show who he is without saying a word. But here's the trap. Your ego will want to respond. Your fear will scream for clarity. You'll want to reach out again. You'll want to ask, is everything okay? Did I do something wrong? Are we still good? And every time you do that from a place of anxiety, you reinforce their fear that love always comes with pressure, that closeness always demands performance. And so they retreat further, not because they stopped caring, but because your reaction made them feel like their emotional safety might get buried under your emotional urgency. What they need, what they're actually asking, is this. Are you the kind of man who can handle uncertainty without needing control? And that's what Stoicism prepares you for, not just to hold your peace when things are calm, but to protect it when things get uncertain. Because emotional power isn't about knowing everything, it's about staying composed when you know nothing. Seneca said, "He who is brave is free," and bravery in this case means resisting the urge to fix the unknown. It means allowing the silence to speak without rushing to fill it. It means realizing that their distance might not be a door closing. It might be them asking, "Can I feel safe loving you without losing myself?" Let that land for a second. Their distance might not be rejection. It might be a moment of emotional confusion, and your job isn't to decode it. Your job is to not let it decode you. So here's the real power play. You don't chase. You don't vanish. You hold. You return to your habits, your mission, your focus. You send one clear message without saying a word. I care, but I won't lose myself trying to make you feel safe. I'll hold this space. You return if and when you're ready. And that kind of man, that kind of presence, it doesn't just create safety, it creates respect. So the next time they grow distant, don't ask, "What did I do wrong?" Instead, ask yourself, "How can I remain grounded when I feel emotionally challenged?" Because that answer, that calm, collected presence, is what earns trust. Not your chasing, not your explaining, but your ability to be solid when everything else feels shaky. If you've ever been in this space where someone pulled back and everything in you wanted to chase, but instead you chose to stay composed, write this in the comments. I stay steady when they question. That's your affirmation. That's your anchor. Show the world what quiet strength looks like. And stay with me, because what we're about to uncover next is how fear makes people act in reverse. Why the more they feel, the colder they become. And how your steady warmth, not forced, not needy, is exactly what melts that armor. We're just getting deeper. Let's keep going. Number 5. Fear reverses logic. Love doesn't always look like tenderness. Sometimes it looks like silence. Sometimes it looks like distance. And the deeper the feeling, the louder the fear. It doesn't make sense at first. The more they feel, the more they pull back. The closer you get, the colder they become. And you're left confused, frustrated, questioning your own reality. You think, wait, weren't we just laughing together last night? Weren't we just opening up, building something real? Then suddenly, cold texts, short replies, silence where there used to be warmth, and your mind spirals. But here's the raw truth most men don't hear enough. Fear doesn't move in straight lines. It doesn't follow logic. And when someone starts to care deeply, when their heart begins to trust again, it doesn't always inspire connection. Sometimes it triggers defense, and that defense shows up looking a lot like indifference. What's really happening? Their emotions are waking up, their heart is starting to stretch, to open, and with that openness comes risk. Old memories come flooding back, times they let someone in and got burned, times they gave their all and it still wasn't enough. And their nervous system, their internal alarm, can't always tell the difference between something real and something dangerous. So they act in reverse. Instead of leaning in, they lean out. Instead of softening, they harden. Not because the feelings are fading, but because the feelings are real. Imagine a wild horse that's been caged for years. You open the gate, you step back, and instead of galloping into freedom, it just stands there, nervous, pacing, watching. Every movement you make feels like a threat. Not because you are one, but because the idea of freedom, of being held again, of running wild, it's overwhelming. That's what love feels like to someone with emotional wounds. That's what you're dealing with. And if you don't recognize the pattern, you'll misread the moment. You'll chase when you should hold still. You'll explain when you should stay quiet. You'll panic when you should breathe. You see, folks, fear is the great shapeshifter. It makes people contradict themselves. It makes them act in ways even they don't understand. One day they're holding your hand tighter than ever. The next day they flinch when you get too close. And it's not a game. It's not manipulation. It's survival. It's their way of saying, I don't know if I can trust this yet. And here's where most men break the frame. They try to compensate. They start doing more texts, more reassurance, more I'm here for you. And the more they give, the more the other person pulls away. Why? Because now love feels like pressure. The very thing that was supposed to be safe starts to feel suffocating, and the connection begins to collapse under the weight of your urgency. But there's another way, A Stoic way, a way that doesn't involve abandoning yourself just to hold on to someone else. You remain calm. You stop trying to fix emotions that were never yours to begin with. You stop assuming that their fear is your fault, and you start realizing that their withdrawal is not a call for more of you. It's a call for your steadiness. It's their soul asking, "Are you strong enough to handle the parts of me that I still don't understand?" Seneca once said, "We are more often frightened than hurt, and we suffer more from imagination than from reality." You need to remember that when they start pulling back. You are not being punished. You are not being abandoned. You are standing in the eye of their emotional storm, and your power is in not reacting. Let their fear play out. Let their emotions rise and settle. Don't chase the wave. Be the shoreline. Still, constant, present, because the moment you start trying to logic them out of their fear, you lose your grounding. You step into their chaos instead of anchoring them in your calm. Think about it. When a child wakes up from a nightmare, they don't need you to explain the dream away. They just need to feel safe again. That's what emotional resistance is. A kind of waking nightmare where closeness feels like a threat. And your job isn't to explain the fear away. It's to remain safe in spite of it. So the next time you feel that emotional shift, the distance, the silence, the reverse behavior, don't rush in trying to fix it. Don't send the paragraph. Don't question your worth. Recognize the pattern, respect the process, and hold the line. If this truth hits home, if you've ever seen someone pull away just when things were getting beautiful, drop this in the comments. I don't match fear. I ground it. Let the world see it. Let yourself believe it. Because the man who doesn't overreact to emotional reversal, the man who stands still while others spiral, that's the man they come back to when the fear fades. And we're not done yet. Because next, we're going to talk about the core desire behind the distance, how they want to feel missed without feeling like they're losing themselves, and how your restraint becomes the mirror that shows them what real safety feels like. Stay with me, the breakthrough's coming. Number 6, they want to matter without losing control. Sometimes people pull away not to forget you, but to find out if you forget them. And that's the twist most men miss. When someone starts to fall for you, when the bond deepens, when the connection gets undeniably real, they don't always lean in with more affection. Sometimes they step back. Sometimes they get quiet. Sometimes they disappear into their own world. And not because they've stopped caring, but because they're hoping you haven't. Here's the truth. Many people don't know how to be vulnerable and safe at the same time. They're used to extremes, either fully guarded or dangerously open. And the moment someone makes them really feel, they don't know what to do with that intensity. They want to know they matter to you, but they don't want to lose themselves in the process. So what do? They test the waters, they create distance, they withdraw their energy, not to punish you, but to see something. Will you spiral? Will you panic? Will you chase? Will you prove their worst fear true, that love means pressure? It's like this. Imagine they're handing you a fragile piece of glass. It's the first real thing they've ever offered. Raw emotion, unspoken fears, unhealed wounds. And instead of saying, "Here, keep this," they pause. They pull it back slightly, not because they want to break the connection, but because they want to watch how you handle the space. Can you stand still? Can you remain calm? Can you be present without grabbing? The irony is they don't want to be forgotten. That's not why they're pulling back. They want to know their absence echoes, that if they disappeared for a moment, your respect wouldn't. They want to feel missed, but not chased, desired, but not smothered, important, but not idolized. And most men get this wrong. They confuse this moment with rejection, and so they overreact. They pour out their heart in long texts. They demand clarity. They push for connection. And suddenly, the space they needed becomes pressure. The freedom they were craving becomes noise. And they retreat even further, not because they stopped feeling, but because they felt too much. But a Stoic man, a grounded man, he knows better. He doesn't see distance as a demand for more. He sees it as an opportunity to show what kind of presence he really carries. He doesn't get loud. He doesn't panic. He doesn't explain his worth. He simply continues, focused, centered, unbothered. Not because he doesn't care, but because he understands that love that needs to be forced loses its value. Marcus Aurelius said, "The best revenge is not to be like your enemy." In this case, the enemy isn't a person, it's the fear. It's the insecurity that says, if they pull away, chase them. If they go silent, get louder. If they stop showing up, prove you're still there. No. The Stoic response is to stay still and let your calm become the answer to their chaos. Because what they're really looking for isn't reassurance in the form of words. It's safety in the form of presence. Quiet confidence, emotional stillness, the kind of strength that doesn't need to prove anything, but is felt in its restraint. And here's the shift. When you respond with calm detachment, not coldness, but composure, they feel that deeply. They feel the weight of your energy even more in your absence. Because unlike the man who texts paragraphs, who pleads, who rushes to explain, you do nothing loud. And in that stillness, they realize something rare. You're not gone. You're just not chasing. And that contrast? That's what gets remembered. That's what reignites curiosity. That's what brings clarity to the fog of fear. So ask yourself, are you the man who needs to be seen constantly to feel secure? Or are you the man whose presence is so grounded it speaks volumes even when you say nothing? Because the person pulling away, they're not trying to erase you. They're trying to see what's real, and if you react out of panic, you teach them that love always comes with instability. But if you respond with patience, if you hold your frame, if you stay aligned with your mission, they begin to trust something deeper than words. They trust your energy. They trust your composure. And trust me, that's what stays in their mind long after the silence fades. Not the messages, not the explanations, the stillness, the calm, the strength you didn't flaunt, but simply embodied. So if you've ever been in that moment where someone pulled back, not to disappear, but to see how you'd handle the absence, write this in the comments. My calm is louder than their fear. Let it be your reminder. Let it be your weapon. Let it be the reason they look back and think, I didn't lose them. I just underestimated their strength. And stay with me, because up next, we're about to talk about the ultimate trap, when their fear becomes your mirror, and how to stay solid without reflecting their doubt. What's coming next is where emotional mastery takes root. Don't miss it. Number 7, be the mountain, not the mirror. You don't calm a storm by becoming one. This is where most men lose their edge. They start off steady, collected, clear, but the moment someone else pulls back, starts acting cold, distant, uncertain, they match that energy. They mirror the fear, and suddenly the calm they once carried is replaced by chaos. Not because they wanted to become unstable, but because they confused reaction with strength. But here's the truth, my friend. You're not meant to mirror their emotional storm. You're meant to anchor it. You are the mountain, not the wave. When someone you care about pulls away, when their behavior shifts, when they test your presence with their absence, it's tempting to retaliate, to give them the same silence, to pull away first, to make them feel what you're feeling. But that's not Stoicism, that's ego. That's you trying to regain power by creating more distance instead of holding your center. And here's the paradox. When they pull away, they're not always hoping you'll chase. Sometimes they're hoping you won't. Sometimes they want to see that your strength isn't conditional, that your presence doesn't collapse under pressure, that you don't become someone else just because their emotions got loud. You ever seen a lighthouse panic in a storm? You ever seen a mountain tremble because the wind screamed louder that day? No, because that's not what they do. They hold, they don't react, they remain. And that's the kind of presence people remember, the one that didn't shift with the emotional weather. But to do that, to truly be the mountain, you have to let go of the need to be understood in the moment. You have to release the urge to fix, to explain, to beg for clarity. You have to trust that your stillness, your restraint, your calmness is saying everything that needs to be said. It's not about going silent to punish. It's about going still to protect your peace. It's about realizing that if someone needs space, you don't make it a war. You give it without resentment. And if they return to a man who never left his path, never lowered his value, never sacrificed his self-respect for temporary closeness. Because let's be honest, what good is winning someone back if you lose yourself in the process? Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." That's your foundation. You don't control how they act, how they feel, or how long they stay distant. But you do control how you hold yourself. You do control the story you tell yourself in the silence. And most of all, you control what kind of man you become when the easy connection becomes uncomfortable tension. So don't be their mirror, be their contrast. Let them see the steadiness in you that they can't yet find in themselves. Let them witness a man who doesn't flinch when the energy shifts, a man who stays kind, composed and focused. Not because he's unaffected, but because he refuses to betray his growth for a reaction. That's the version of you they'll respect. That's the presence they'll miss. Not the man who begged, who panicked, who changed just to be chosen, but the man who was already whole before they even walked in. And if they return, let it be to the man who didn't move. And if they don't, let them remember the man who didn't have to. If you're claiming that strength today, drop this in the comments. I am the mountain, not the wave, not the mirror. The mountain, unmoved, unshaken, unbothered. If this video gave you clarity, power, or peace, smash that like button, share it with someone who needs this message today, and subscribe to Powerful Stoic Habits so you never lose sight of your path again. You don't rise by chasing people, you rise by mastering yourself. Keep your calm, hold your frame, and I'll see you in the next one.